Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is a video I have never done before. This is a full face of first impressions. The only products that I used today that were not first impressions were my brows and my eye primer. And that's because honestly, if something works, that's not something I really play around with. We tested out the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, the new Born This Way Too Faced concealer. I used the Flower Beauty setting spray, a Morphe contour palette. Like we dumped into a lot of new items. And then some cult favorites, Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder. It's just a lot of new things to me that I have literally never tried before, the formulas at all. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload twice a week. And that is the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So without further ado, let's get right into this first impressions video. So I'm going to be starting with the YSL Touche Eclat Blur Primer. This was a deluxe sample from Sephora. I love trying new things, but if you want to try new things regularly, there is nothing wrong with trying samples and getting those from Ulta, Sephora, the works. So especially something this pricey, this is not something that I would ever try without a sample. And for some reason, I just have never tried it. So I am taking that all over the face today. Okay, so the skin feels really smooth and really nourished. It doesn't feel greasy smooth, like oily. It feels almost like there's a powder residue on everything. That's weird. But it definitely feels smooth, and everything does look a little bit blurred and not quite airbrushed, but definitely blurred. So I'm not actually going to go in with another primer. That's going to be the only one I'm using today. But for foundation, I am trying out the Maybelline SuperStay, but this is the stick formula. I have been raving about the SuperStay formula for months now. I absolutely love it. And the thing I love about Maybelline is if you are one shade in one color in one formula, you're pretty much the same in everything. So I did pick up 120 Classic Ivory, which is my shade. The one thing I will say is you don't get a lot of product, or at least it doesn't look like you do. I did do some research and it is actually the same amount as in the Hourglass Vanish Stick, but still it is not a lot of product. So I'm gonna take that and pretty much dot that everywhere I would normally do a stick foundation. And it does have a little sponge applicator that I'm going to totally not use, and I'm going to go in with a beauty blender. I'm going to try going into a brush because that's not really blending out all that quickly. So right off the bat, that definitely did blend much better with the brush. What I will say is it does not feel tacky at all. It definitely feels almost powdered. So if you do have more of an oily skin or a dry skin where you're sensitive to powders, you could probably get away with not setting this. I'm actually going to set it because I always set my foundation. Travis just jumped up on the table. If you see a little black thing walking around, it's the cat. But the one thing I will say is compared to the liquid formula, it's definitely not as full coverage. Luckily, I'm going in with a super coverage concealer today. This is the Too Faced Born This Way Super Coverage Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. This actually just launched recently, and I picked up the shade Porcelain to brighten with. Brand new virgin wand, never used, brand new, first impressions. I love it. So I'm going to take that and focus that basically anywhere that I normally would brighten. I do love the applicator already. It's similar to Shape Tape, but it has almost that indented piece on the tip like the Jeffree Star liquid lips do. And I love that because it holds a little bit more product so you can really go in. So that is one dunk of product. I'm going to go in with my sponge again and just blend that out. Compared to the foundation, this is blending out effortlessly, and I know that people drop that word all the time, and they're like, oh, everything is effortless. I literally go over this 2 times and it's done, and it looks brightened, but the coverage isn't gone, the sponge didn't soak it up, and it just blended it in perfectly. It's not shiny, it has a nice matte finish. So I'm quickly going to set that down. I picked up the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder. This is in the shade Light, and I'm just going to take that on the sponge and use it to set down the under eye. So based on how brightening that was, the one thing I am gonna say is I kind of wish I got a shade lighter, because this is like the perfect shade to match my skin tone. If I wanted to set, like I'm gonna use this to kind of set down the whole face lightly with a layer of powder. But if I were to go in with this and I just wanted it on the under eyes, it would almost be like too much. It would almost be too much the perfect shade. So I may pick up a lighter one if I like this, just for the under eye. Actually, I take that back. Once it's all blended out, I'm still getting a nice brightened under eye. If I really want it to be that much more of a stark contrast, I can always go in with a little bit more of the concealer. So to bronze and contour today, I'm going to be going in with the Morphe 8L Lo-Fi Sculpting Palette. This has 2 bronzer and 2 contour shades. For me, this lighter bronzer is actually more of like I could literally take this and dust it under my eyes and it's a setting powder, because it is like basically my skin tone, or I can use it if I wanted to like pre-bronze, which I talked about in another video that I will link up above. And then there are 4 highlighter shades. I am going to be using one of them as a base highlighter shade, and I do actually have a highlight topper today, so I'm really excited about that. But to start off with the bronzing on my fluffy Sonia Kashuk brush, I'm going to go into this bronzing shade right here. It is called Enemy. I know I only did half the face, but I'm actually really happy with that color. Obviously, I'm not sure about the formula, how it's gonna last, or what's gonna happen with it throughout the day, but I am definitely going to say that the initial application, like this color, is definitely a little darker than I normally go, but I'm liking it. So now that we have bronzed a little bit, I'm going to go into Donut right here. This is a little bit more cool toned of the 2 contours. Since this bronzer is very warm, I'm just gonna dip into Donut, and I'm just gonna focus that right on the cheekbone itself, just to add a little bit more of a contour on that high point. So we are bronzed, we are contoured, the nose is snatched, time for blush. I did pick up Summer from NYX. This is the HD high definition blush. That's a little redundant. This is the high definition blush. Okay, now that I edited myself struggling to get this open out of the video, this is the color I picked. It's actually very like coral pink with a little bit of shimmer. It almost reminds me of Orgasm from NARS. And I'm gonna take that and focus that on the cheekbone area. And today I'm actually gonna pull that a little bit more onto the apples of the cheek than I normally do. Normally I concentrate it really high up here, but because of the eye look I know I'm doing and the color of the lip, I am going to drag this down a little bit more than I normally do. This is literally like my favorite color of blush to use. I am going to take a little bit of that and just kind of blend a little onto the sides of the nose. Not enough for a lot of color payoff, but enough to just kind of look flushed with the coloring in the face. And for the base highlight, I'm going to go into Supernova right here. And I am going to just dust that onto the cheek. So this is a really pretty base highlighter. What that means is, like, for someone like me who really likes to be blinding, it's a little bit more of like a natural sheen. It's very like dewy and wet on the skin. It's not gonna give you like this over the top extra blinding finish, which for most people is desirable. So a lot of people I think will really like how natural this highlight is. I'm gonna be going over it with something else, but it is actually very pretty for a like base highlighty shade. So I did just kind of swatch all of them to see what I was looking at. Stardust right here is white with like a pink shift, and Cosmic right here gives you this like rose gold finish. So I'm gonna see if I add a little bit of that, if it's gonna amp it up a bit. Yeah, this is definitely a more intense shade than Supernova. There we go. All right, now we're getting there to the point where I would call this wearable. And I know that this is a lot for a lot of people. You can always tone down your highlighter and make it less than mine. What you can do is you can take your blush brush and you can, in circular motions, just kind of blend your blush up towards the highlighter, and that's just gonna make it a little bit more gradual and a little bit less over the top. And normally I would wear it this way, but since I am putting something else over it, I do wanna blend it out a little bit, and I just get this nice, soft, supple sheen to the cheeks, but nothing super over the top. So what is, I think, going to be the star of the show today, I picked up the Urban Decay Born to Run eyeshadow palette. So the palette looks like this. It is very pretty as far as the packaging. I love this like soft plastic. It's definitely like a harder plastic, but when I say soft plastic, I mean like you have hard plastic and you have something that has a little bit more of like a less rigid tactile cardboard. It has a full-size mirror, and it has a beautiful shade range. Now, something that I noticed, and actually somebody called me out for it in the comment section, I will go to get ready, I decide I'm gonna film, I put on a blue shirt because I'm feeling like blue is my color today, I sit down, and I film with blue. I open this palette, and my eyes go right up here, and this is the shirt I put on today. So because of that predictability, I am gonna kind of focus down here. So I am going to quickly, before I do this, just put on an eyeshadow primer and do my brows off camera. Those are the only products today that I'm not trying out new. So I'm gonna go in with my normal eye primer and brow routine, and I'll be right back. The first shade I'm going to dip into is going to be Baja, this orange shade right here. Okay, these are actually depositing quite a bit of pigment and you're getting a good color payoff, but they're also blending out really well. What I will say right off the bat, unpopular opinion, I do not have and do not like the Naked palettes from Urban Decay. The mattes are almost, I hate to use the word dusty because that implies that there's not a lot of pigment and that you could just blend for hours to nothingness, but they're like a dry blendable. So there are people who love that, I don't. I like a little bit more of a creamy matte. This is definitely a more creamy matte. It's depositing color and it's blending out well, but I'm not having an issue where there's any patchiness or anything like that. So second shade I'm gonna dip into, this time on a flat synthetic brush. I'm gonna go into Still Shot, this peachy shade up here. And I'm actually gonna take that over that first shade Baja, and I'm actually going to then buff it up into the crease. I know I said I wasn't going to do a very warm look today because of the shirt I'm wearing, but even when I do like something with greens and cool tones, I do really like to have a really warm crease for contrast. And what that's going to do is I'm going to have this really pretty peachy orange crease and then this beautiful cool toned green on the eyes. So I just realized that I basically did a very coral eye with a blue-green lid like 2 videos ago in my Jeffree Star unboxing. I'm going to list that right here. So I'm going to change gears on this a little bit and basically take it in the opposite direction. I'm going to dip into Good Is Gone, the brown up here, and I'm going to start holy crap. Okay, that is apparently a softer shade. I'm going to take that and start deepening up the outer portion of the lid. Holy moly. Then to soften all of this, I'm going to mix Still Shot the Coral with Riff, this camel brown. But I'm going to get a little more of the coral, and I'm just going to blend out the edges. So for the lid, I'm going to, on my finger, take Smog right here. This, in the pan, it looks more gold, but it's actually more of like a coppery shade, but it is super foiled. So I'm going to press that onto the lid, and then blend away anywhere where that might have gotten any fallout. Now to amp that up just a little bit, I'm gonna go right here into Stranded, and on, well, not the same finger, but on a different finger, I'm just gonna tap that on the center of the lid, just to add that little extra pop of shine. So I'm really liking how these are performing, but I am getting a lot of fallout in the pan. If that's something you feel very strongly about, then you're definitely going to dislike this, but it is giving me a lot of that. Because we're super neutral and a little grungy on the eye, I am actually going to take Guilt Trip, and I'm going to run this all along the lower lash line. This is a shimmery purple. Then on a different pencil brush, I'm going to take Riff, that camel brown shade, and I'm just going to blend that under the purple. So to highlight the inner corner and brow bone, I'm going to go into Breakaway up here. You know, so often I go to highlight the inner corner with a shadow, and it's never vibrant enough, and I always have to go in with a highlighter. But I'm actually really liking the way that this is brightening the inner corner. So for mascara today, it is actually July, which is my birthday month. So I picked up my birthday Ulta reward and I got the It Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. It is a deluxe size. However, it is something I've never used before, so I'm going to pop this on. I did already curl my lashes, and I'm going to take this primarily just on the top lashes because I don't want to really play with the purple, and I have something else planned for the bottom lashes. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm getting a lot of like spidery effect with the lashes. However, they are like a little bit clumpy and clinging together. So I find that I am having to finesse them just a little bit more than I should. This is the Morphe B71. It's literally like just a comb for your lashes. And like sometimes when my lashes are clumpy and I really want to like strategically separate the hairs, I'll go in with this. But like with most mascaras, I don't have to, because if I do I really want a mascara that I then have to go through and like separate the hairs individually? For the lower lash line, I'm going to be taking the Colossal Big Shot Makeup Shayla collection. This is the Cobalt Blue. I know I have purple down there, but I'm going to take just a little bit of blue and I'm going to take that on the lower lashes just to add a little bit of that like pop, and I think this blue is really going to help the purple to stand out. So I am loving how this looking is, but I can tell right now that you can't see any of that on camera, but like trust me, I love how it looks. So definitely something I'll play around with again. Hell of a lot more likely than the top mascara. So now for the highlighter topper, I finally gave in and I'm trying the Makeup Forever Starlit Powder. This is intense and blinding and basically everything I like in a highlighter. Now this is the shade 13, so I am going to be very careful not to get this everywhere. And I'm going to go into my highlighting brush, and I'm not even going into the product, I'm going to go into just what's left on the cap. And I'm going to add a little bit. You guys ready for this? Like, I just, to me, this makes me so happy, is this type of a blinding glow. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to take a little bit of this and add it to the inner corners. Now for lips today, we are going to be trying out two new things from NYX. Not really new, I guess. This is the Soft Matte Lip Cream in the shade Milan. This is not a formula I have ever tried. And then I picked up the Pump It Up Lip Plumper in the shade 02. And I'm going to be layering that over the Soft Matte Lip Cream. Now for this, I did apply a little bit from the tube, and then I just took my finger and blended it out so that it's a little bit more of like a light stain, because I didn't realize, like this is the color I thought I was getting, and it is like so much pinker when I apply it. But that's okay, because I'm going over it with a topper anyway. I'm actually really happy with how that looks. It's definitely tingling a little bit. It's not immediate first impression. It's not going to be something that's going to replace my Fenty gloss or my Hank & Henry glosses, but it is really pretty and definitely something that I think will layer nicely over most liquid lipsticks. And finally, last thing, we have to set this in place. This is the Seal the Day Long Lasting Setting Spray from Flower Beauty. Now, this mist, do you see how magical that is? Like, this is almost as fine as the Morphe setting spray. So I'm really excited to use it on my face because I've never tried it on my face. I've just kind of like sprayed it about a dozen times. So, and that's the finished look. So with the setting spray, just one thing I will say, when you use it, it smells like cucumbers, but when you spray it on the face, this smells to me what the Golden Girls should smell like. Like it's that perfect blend of like Coty Airspun mixed with floral with cucumber on the finish. Like it is, this is what Blanche Devereaux smells like. So I'm just gonna like rapid fire through the products as far as first impressions. I will leave in the description box if any of my long lasting opinions are that different from the initial impressions, but the primer I think went on really well. I am definitely missing my primers on my nose. I can see my pores more than I normally do. My foundation is not quite as seamless as it normally is. So this is something I think I will continue to try and play with around the face. But as far as on the nose, not really a fan. The foundation I think went on really pretty, and if it wears this same way, then I think it's gonna go really well. The one thing I will say is, just in the hour and a half since I've been here and filming and playing around, it's already worn off a little bit on the side of my mouth over here. So that's something I'll have to keep an eye out for. And for how little product came in here, I'm thinking I might just have to stick with the liquid formula. The concealer, I'm not creasy, I am brightened, I'm looking good. I'm definitely gonna play around with this again, like possible new favorite here. I do love the ethereal setting spray, so I already like the line, so it's not really a stretch for me to love the concealer. The powder is everything that everyone has always raved about it to be. I take back what I said initially about the color being too dark and wanting a lighter one. I do think this actually worked out really well for my skin tone. Rapid fire through the rest. The blush is really pretty, and I actually went heavier on it than I normally do, and I'm really happy with it. The Morphe palette, fantastic. I don't think I'll get a lot of use out of these two highlighters and this shade up here, but the rest of them I think will actually go over really nicely, and they blended really well, and they're sitting on the skin really, really pretty. The Starlit Powder, star of the show, cult classic, possibly new favorite. Tune into my July favorites to see what, stood the last of time. The lip feels comfortable, not rubbing away, layered nicely, so the two of these do work really well together. I'm going to try and pick up another one of these that's not quite so bubblegum pink, because I expected it to be a little more nude than it was, so I'm not really a fan. The mascaras. This one, the Superhero on the top lashes, good, not great. I would probably use this with falsies if you weren't going to see my lashes and I just wanted a nice curl with black deepening of the color. Because it is holding the shape, it just didn't really separate them as much as I like if I'm not going to wear falsies. The Makeup Shayla and Maybelline. It's not quite pigmented enough for me to say that it's going to look great on camera, but this is something that I think I'll play around with a lot off camera because I do love like a nice vibrant pop of color, and this will really help with those neutral looks and taking them to the next level. The eyeshadow palette is beautiful, and I can't wait to play with it some more. I dipped into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the shades, which honestly is not bad, but I want to play with all of them. So whether I play with it on camera, off camera, on my Instagram, check that out, Glam, you will see more from this because I really do want to play around with it more because it's really pretty. And finally, the setting spray, which I opened this little exit out with, is really pretty if you can get over the fact that it literally smells like the Golden Girls. Done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and this was weird for me. I definitely think that I prefer reviewing a single product at a time and giving the dedication, but I know a lot of people just like seeing a lot of new things all at once, and honestly, like, this was something interesting and something fun. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.